The Galactic Empire stretched across 1,000 worlds. From the jewel-colored skies of Orion Prime to the fire-soaked mines of Varkesh, their banners hung heavy and proud. For centuries, their fleets had roamed the stars unchallenged. Entire civilizations bowed beneath their heel, whispering the Empire's name with fear rather than reverence. The Emperor sat high upon his throne of obsidian, confident that no force could ever rival his dominion. His admirals assured him of continued dominance, his governors drowned him in tribute, and his subjects bent their knees in submission. The galaxy belonged to him, or so he believed. Then one day silence broke the illusion. The first glimpse. It began as a murmur in the Imperial Navy's command chamber. Long-range sensors had detected something unusual, an approaching warship of unknown origin. Its design matched no database, no registry. It traveled through the folds of hyperspace with a precision their technology could not replicate, as though space itself parted willingly before it. When it emerged, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The vessel was colossal, larger than the Empire's greatest dreadnought, its armored hull shimmering like liquid metal under the starlight. Its structure was alien, angular yet refined, as if forged with a purpose beyond mere war. Weapons arrays lined its surface, silent but humming with restrained energy. The crew of the Imperial flagship stared at their screens in disbelief. "It can't be Terran," whispered one officer. "The humans, they are primitives, barely fit to guard their own little rock." But the designation matched. The codes in its faint signal resonated with an old, forgotten file. Humans. Terrans. A frontier species the Empire had dismissed centuries ago as unworthy of conquest. They were not a people to fear until now. The arrival at the throne world. The battleship did not linger on the outer rim. It carved a path directly through the stars, appearing at relay stations, skirting the edges of patrols, and moving with a speed that left entire fleets scrambling. No force could intercept it. No trap could ensnare it. Days later, it arrived above the Imperial capital. The capital was the crown of the galaxy, its orbit lined with 1,000 warships, its skies shielded by planetary defense grids strong enough to shatter moons. The people of the city looked up, expecting to see another glorious fleet return from conquest. Instead, they saw a shadow eclipse their sun. The Terran Battleship. It hung silently above them, blotting out the heavens. The Emperor demands an answer. In the Grand Throne Hall, the Emperor's voice thundered across the chamber. Open communications. I will know the name of the fool who dares intrude upon my world. Admirals scrambled to comply, sending signal after signal toward the battleship. Demands for identification. Orders to stand down. Threats of annihilation. No reply. The Emperor's fury grew. Then fire upon them. Planetary cannons roared. Energy beams, plasma rounds, and kinetic lances surged upward in a storm of fury. They struck the battleship's hull, only to vanish as though absorbed by the void itself. The ship did not move. It did not retaliate. It remained. Silent. Watching. The silence of power. Then came the demonstration. The Terran battleship did not fire a weapon in anger. Instead, its presence itself became the weapon. First, the Imperial fleet in orbit flickered. Massive warships, their engines glowing bright, suddenly went dark, dead in the void, their systems crippled by a force they could not understand. Next, the planetary defense grids faltered, their power drains surging to catastrophic levels. Cities across the capital dimmed, their lights flickering out as the planet fell into shadow. Finally, the Terran battleship projected something far more terrifying, a distortion of space. The sky itself rippled, and for a heartbeat, the very stars bent. Admirals who saw it swore the ship had torn open reality itself, holding destruction in its grasp but choosing not to unleash it. And still, it did not speak. The fall of arrogance. In that silence, the Empire's arrogance cracked. The admirals, once proud and unyielding, looked to one another with pale faces. The Emperor, furious at first, now sat frozen on his throne, his hand gripping the armrest as if it might anchor him against the rising tide of fear. Across the capital, across the Empire, silence spread. Citizens who once cheered at the might of their legions now hid in their homes. Governors who once barked orders into comms now whispered prayers. Soldiers who once marched with iron discipline now trembled in their barracks. The silence of the Terran battleship was louder than any war cry. The last transmission. A single transmission finally broke through. It came not as a voice, but as a message burned across every Imperial channel, every screen, every data pad. Read. We warned you once. You did not listen. Now you will listen to silence. And then, nothing. No further words, no ultimatums, no declarations. Only the battleship above, a shadow reminding the Empire of its fragility. The Empire falls silent. In the days that followed, no Imperial fleet dared to move against the battleship. Entire sectors ceased communication, governors choosing silence over rebellion. The Emperor's court grew hushed, waiting for an order that never came. And so the greatest empire in the galaxy fell, not to fire, not to conquest, but to silence. Because when the Terran battleship arrived, the galaxy finally remembered what it had chosen to forget. Humanity had not been weak. Humanity had not been gone. Humanity had been preparing. And now humanity had returned. The Galactic Empire had ruled for millennia. Its banners stretched across spiral arms, its fleets darkened the stars, and its legions burned civilizations into memory. History was written in fire, and the Emperor sat at its center, believing himself eternal. The Empire had enemies, of course, rebellions, raiders, rival states, but none lasted. All crumbled beneath the boots of the Imperial legions. For centuries the galaxy had whispered of only one power. And yet, buried deep within the Imperial archives, locked away under layers of dust and denial, there existed records of a war the Empire had never truly finished. The Terran Uprising. A people from a small blue world on the fringe of galactic space. Insignificant, defiant, crushed. Their colonies were razed, their fleets annihilated, their name erased from the tongues of scholars. Humanity, the records claimed, had been destroyed utterly. The Empire believed the matter closed. Until the day the forgotten threat returned. Whispers in the void. The first reports were dismissed as pirate rumors. A single ship sighted at the edge of Imperial space, its silhouette unfamiliar, its drive signature unreadable. Patrols were set. None returned. Then came the frontier governor of Relos 9, his voice trembling through the comms before the signal cut out. A battleship, not ours, it. Silence. Admirals gathered in war councils, analyzing scraps of data. What they saw shook them. The ship was massive, bristling with weapons of unknown design. Its shields bent the scans back like mirrors. And etched faintly into its identification code was a designation not seen in over 1,000 years. Terran. The word spread like wildfire through the officer corps. At first as disbelief, then as unease, and finally, as fear. The return. The battleship did not creep into Imperial space. It marched. World after world reported its presence. One day on the edges of a mining colony, the next at a military station, and then gone before fleets could converge. Where it appeared, silence followed, communications cut, fleets lost, defenses shattered. It never lingered, never explained, never bargained. It simply advanced, inexorable as the tide. Within a fortnight, it appeared above Varan Prime, the fortress world that guarded the core. Its defenses were legendary, 20 orbital platforms, 3 fleets, and a planetary shield said to be impenetrable. The Terran battleship arrived. And Varan Prime was gone within an hour. Not destroyed. Not glassed. Not burned. Gone silent. The archives unsealed. On the throne world, panic rippled through the court. The Emperor demanded answers. His archivists, long fearful of revealing ancient truths, finally opened the sealed records. There it was, written in dusty scripts and fading holos. Humanity had not been exterminated. The war had ended in stalemate. The last human fleets had vanished into the void, their destinations unknown. The Empire had buried the truth under propaganda, claiming victory. But the records told a darker tale. Humans had been different. Dangerous in ways the Empire had never understood. They adapted too quickly, fought too fiercely, and built weapons the Empire could not replicate. The war had cost trillions of lives, and so the Empire had lied to itself, declaring them extinct. They were never gone, whispered Grand Admiral Solric, pale as a ghost. They were waiting. The message of fire. The Emperor, defiant, sent his greatest fleet to meet the Terran battleship. 1,000 warships, bristling with firepower, encircled the intruder near the twin suns of Kalas. The order was given. The sky lit up with fury. A storm of plasma, torpedoes, and kinetic rounds tore through the void. For a moment the Admiral smiled. Nothing could withstand such firepower. Nothing. But when the blaze cleared, the Terran battleship still hung there. Its hull shimmered faintly, scarred but unbroken. Then it answered. It fired once. The beam lanced across the fleet, carving through dreadnoughts as though they were paper. Entire formations vanished in silence. Hundreds of ships fell dark. The battle lasted 10 minutes. When it ended, the Terran battleship still stood, alone, silent. And the greatest fleet of the Empire had been erased. The Empire trembles. News spread faster than censorship could contain it. Across the Empire, people whispered, "The humans have returned." Governors faltered, their tribute fleets deserting. Soldiers muttered of cursed wars and forgotten enemies. Even the nobles, once arrogant, grew silent in their marble halls. The Terran Battleship did not speak. It did not declare its intent. It only advanced, world by world, system by system, until at last it stood above the imperial capital itself. Billions looked up into the night sky and saw it there, blotting out the stars. The Emperor's plea. In the throne hall, the Emperor demanded communication. His voice, once thunder, now trembled. "This is the heart of the Empire," he roared. "Name yourselves. What do you want?" At last the battleship replied. A voice, cold, human, unmistakably human, echoed across every channel, every screen, every world of the Empire. "We were forgotten. Erased. Buried beneath your lies. You thought us gone. You thought us broken. You thought wrong." The voice paused. Then, with a weight heavier than 1,000 fleets, it finished. "We are Terran. We do not forget." And the transmission ended. Silence across the stars. The battleship did not fire on the capital. It did not need to. The silence it left behind was worse than destruction. Imperial fleets no longer launched. Commanders no longer barked orders. Citizens no longer cheered the banners of conquest. The very soul of the Empire had been cracked. Across 1,000 worlds the silence spread. The Empire, once the loudest voice in the galaxy, now whispered in fear. And high above the capital, the Terran battleship waited. For it knew what the Empire had yet to accept. The age of the Empire was over. The age of humanity had returned. The galaxy was burning. Rebellions flared in the outer systems, while rival warlords clawed at the fringes of the Empire's might. The Emperor, draped in robes of midnight, had decreed a final campaign to end the chaos. His fleets gathered like storm clouds, millions of soldiers readied their blades, and the nobility sharpened their ambitions. The Empire would drown its enemies in fire. That was the plan. Until the silence arrived. A shadow from the void. It was first sighted at the edge of the Balek Nebula, where Imperial scouts vanished without explanation. At first, the Admiralty thought it pirates, then rebels, then an equipment malfunction. But then the shadow came closer, cutting through the void with a grace that unnerved even seasoned navigators. It was a ship, vast, angular, its hull so black it seemed to drink in the stars around it. Unlike any vessel known to the galaxy, it bore no banners, no transponders, no insignia. It moved without announcing itself, a phantom in the dark. The Empire hailed it. No response. It approached in silence, ignoring warnings, ignoring threats, ignoring the countless signals that demanded submission. The admirals grew impatient. "Destroy it," one snapped. "Show them the price of defiance." The order was given. A fleet of 30 warships opened fire, bathing the intruder in plasma fire and kinetic fury. When the light cleared, the silent warship still hung there. Untouched. Watching. The mockery of command. Imperial broadcasts carried the story faster than censorship could suppress it. At military briefings, commanders laughed. A single ship against an empire? Impossible. "Let it come," sneered Grand Admiral Karvek. "We'll swat it aside like the insect it is." But in the following weeks, fleets began to vanish. Reports trickled in of battles fought in the dark, of warships breaking apart without warning, of entire armadas falling silent mid-communication. The pattern was always the same. The silent warship appeared. Fleets confronted it. Then, nothing. No survivors. No wreckage. Just silence. The first battlefront falls. The rebellion in the Eurasian sector was the Empire's proving ground. 50 Imperial fleets assembled, confident in their numbers, ready to crush the defiant colonies. The silent warship arrived first. Witnesses on the ground watched in horror as the sky lit up with war. The Empire's Grand Armada unleashed its full might, but the Terran vessel moved with an elegance no ship of its size should possess. Its weapons, strange, alien, devastating, tore through Imperial ships as though they were made of glass. Entire legions died without ever glimpsing their enemy. By dawn, the Empire's 50 fleets were gone. The rebellion, once desperate, now stood in stunned silence. The Empire's military command was humiliated. Fear spreads. From then on, the warship was everywhere. One day above a fortress moon, the next near a shipyard, then at the gates of a throne world's core defenses. It destroyed fleets with terrifying efficiency, but not always. Sometimes it simply appeared and lingered, hovering above cities, watching. No shots fired, no messages sent. Just a shadow blotting out the sky. And that silence was worse than fire. Because commanders never knew when the strike would come. Entire planets trembled at the sight of it, half expecting annihilation, half begging for mercy. Governors pleaded with the emperor for reassurance. Nobles whispered in terror behind closed doors. The empire, once the loudest voice in the galaxy, began to choke on its own silence. The march to the throne world. At last the warship carved its way to the core. The imperial capital, jewel of 1,000 worlds, was defended by an armada greater than any assembled in history. Hundreds of fleets, billions of soldiers, and planetary defense grids capable of cracking continents. The silent warship emerged from hyperspace. The emperor himself stood in the command spire, flanked by trembling admirals. His voice was iron as he gave the order. Destroy it. The sky turned into a sea of fire. The capital's fleets unleashed every weapon, every blade of technology they possessed. Waves of destruction poured upon the Terran vessel, eclipsing the stars in light. When the barrage ended, the admirals exhaled, certain nothing could have survived. But when the glare faded, the silent warship still remained, untouched. And then, it moved. The silence becomes terror. It did not return fire with equal measure. No. Its weapons struck like whispers, precise and merciless. One beam here and an entire carrier group was gone. One pulse there and orbital platforms went dark. Imperial comms dissolved into screams, then static. Fleets crumbled, legions died, and the capital's sky turned into a graveyard of burning wreckage. And through it all, the Terran Battleship never once spoke. No demands. No threats. No explanations. Only silence. The silence of judgment. The Emperor breaks. In the throne hall, chaos erupted. Courtiers fled, nobles sobbed, and admirals pleaded for retreat. The Emperor, pale and trembling, stared at the sky where the warship hovered. "Who are they?" he whispered. An old archivist, dragged from obscurity, answered with shaking hands. "They are Terran, my lord. The ones we buried. The ones we declared extinct. They have returned." The Emperor fell silent, his pride broken. The end of an empire. The silent warship descended into low orbit, casting its shadow across the imperial capital. Billions gazed upward, awaiting fire, awaiting death. But no attack came. Instead, all comms across the empire lit up with a single message, carved into every screen, every data pad, every starship display. "We do not need to speak. You know why we are here." Then the warship rose again, drifting back into the void. It left the capital intact. It left the Emperor alive. But the silence it left behind was worse than conquest. The galaxy holds its breath. In the days that followed, no imperial fleet dared to launch. No governor dared to rebel nor to obey. Citizens huddled in fear, whispering the name long forgotten. Terran. The war was over before it began. Not because the empire was destroyed, but because its voice, its pride, its arrogance, its belief in eternal dominion, had been silenced. The galaxy had seen the silent warship. And in its silence, the empire finally understood. Humanity had returned. And humanity needed no words.